Testimony and his testimony. We're going to watch what she says, then watch what he says, and we're going to compare them almost sentence by sentence. That way you'll know exactly what's going on from a body language and behavior perspective. Let's take a look.
Can you describe for us what you and the defendant were doing as you started to head back down the trail?
Sure, we were just walking and talking, and I was like, oh, I'm not as much fun as I used to be since having kids, I guess, but yeah, I'm just not enjoying this today. And we were walking down, and there's this big tree, and I was like, oh, I'll climb the tree, you can take my picture up there, and so we did that.
Okay. Who took the picture of who in the tree?
Yeah, I climbed the tree, I gave Gerhardt my phone and my purse to hold, and I climbed the tree, and he took the picture on my phone.
So after you take the picture in this tree, where did you go?
And then I just climbed back down, back to Gerhardt in the trail.
Okay.
So that's what she says happened. Now, her illustrators are great. They're landing when they should. And illustrators, when your brain is emphasizing specific words and phrases, like I did just then, specific words and phrases. She's speaking very smoothly. She's loping, that's what we call it. It's like almost like you're going through a field on a horse, just loping along.
And we were walking down, and there's this big tree, and I was like, oh, I'll climb the tree, you can take my picture up there. And so we did that.
No signs of deception here. Let's take a look at what he said about that.
First, she was like, again, like almost manic, like super happy, and was trying to basically, get me to be in a better mood. And she was like, I'm gonna climb this tree, take pictures of me in this tree. And so she handed me her phone, and I took some pictures of her in the tree. And then after that, she said, let's take a selfie by the cliff's edge.
That was her idea.
Yes.
Okay. Did you guys take one?
We did.
That looks and sounds pretty good too. His illustrators are spot on. They're a little bit big. He's got a lot of illustrating going on there, but that's okay, especially when you're describing something like that. Let's pay attention to how loud he's talking and how fast he's talking. Are there spaces between these sentences he's given?
Be in a better mood, and she was like, I'm gonna climb this tree, take pictures of me in this tree. And so she handed me her phone, and I took some pictures of her in the tree.
So let's keep that behavior in mind as we go forward, because there are no signs of deception here either.
Now, you mentioned one picture of you in a tree. Did you take any other pictures when you're coming down the trail?
We did. At that point, Gerhardt said, let's take a selfie. There's like a cliff's edge there, and he said, let's take a selfie with this view in the background. And so we went and took a picture there as well.
Her delivery is still smooth, it's flowing, it's loping. No signs of deception here. Now let's take a look at what he said.
And what happened after that?
Right after the selfie, I just remember kind of staying at the edge there and looking over the edge and just kind of still in thought about everything that had just happened and what's going on. And then I felt like a shove,
Okay.
and I was almost pushed over the edge.
Okay. You felt a shove. Okay. Who shoved you?
Henry did.
Compared to what he said last time, this is a huge change. His words are very choppy. He's speaking very fast.
Staying at the edge there and looking over the edge and just kind of still in thought about everything that had just happened and what's going on.
His illustrators went from way up here to way down here. There's a lot of uhs and ahs.
Right after the selfie,
in my opinion, if somebody pushed me, I would have said, then she pushed me. She tried to push me off the cliff. Doesn't say that. He says he felt a shove. Now let's see what she says.
What happened after you took the selfie while you were holding onto the tree?
I just asked him to move down the trail a little bit so that I could get past without having to go near the cliff.
And then how did the defendant react to that?
He was a little like, okay, and then he moved a few paces away.
Okay.
That sounds believable. And the reason it sounds believable is because she's given the details, not the little minutia, little tiny things. She's given the overall details of exactly what happened. And again, she's just loping right along, telling us all about it.
Then I walked to him. So he was then facing me and the cliff, and I walked up to him. And again, everything was normal. I walked up and just kind of like brushed my hands against his shoulders, like kind of like a little hug.
Notice she's looking down when she gets to the important part of that.
Okay, after this happens, after you get to where the defendant is on the trail, what happened next?
When I walk up to him, then he grabbed me really forcefully by my upper arms, and he said, I'm so sick of this. get back over there. And he starts pushing me back towards the cliff.
She's reliving it, and she's thinking. A lot of people think when you're being deceptive, you break eye contact, you don't look at the person. However, we know now from studies that's exactly the opposite, because when someone's lying, they want to keep a look at you. They want to keep their eyes on you and make sure you believe them. If they see you making a face like, what, or something like that, then they start adding what are called qualifiers. Qualifiers help make your answer more believable, and you start adding those. But there are no qualifiers here. She's just telling the story how it happened. And when she's looking down, she's just thinking. Most people, when they look away, they break eye contact, they're thinking about the question you asked or the situation that's being asked about. And that's what's happening here. No deception. Now let's see what he says.
What did you do right after that?
Barely caught myself and turned around and looked at her and was like, what the fuck was that? Like,
Okay. Turned around and was like, what, like, was like kind of in shock, like, what the f was that?
yes.
Okay, and then
His illustrators are still low. But remember at the first, when he was telling the truth, he was telling something that wasn't deceptive, his illustrators were really high. A lot going on up there. Not anymore.
did you move towards her?
Yeah, I did. I was like, just asking her, like, what was that? And started walking towards her. Because at this point, she was like 5 or 10 feet away from me.
Also, as he's speaking, it's getting quieter and quieter and quieter as he goes along. That's fading facts.
So you walk towards her, and you mentioned where when you're walking towards her, where were your hands?
Out.
Okay. Now, did you get close to her?
Yes, eventually, yeah. Well,
And by the way, when you start walking towards her, is she saying anything?
not initially, but I turn around and I'm asking her, like, what the hell's, what just happened and what's going on. And as I'm starting to walk towards her, she starts yelling.
And fading facts happen, you get quieter and quieter at the end of your sentence when you're being deceptive. And that's because your brain is saying, hey, man, we shouldn't be saying this. This isn't true. Now, on the other hand, this can happen when someone's telling you something that happened and they get quieter and quieter toward the end. And that happens because they don't want to hear it. They don't want to say it. They don't want to talk about it. So there's a big difference in the two. As we go along, we're going to hear her do that, and I'll show you the difference.
She starts yelling.
Yeah, help me, help me.
Okay. And then what happens?
And then I just keep walking to her, like, what are you doing?
Were you
And I
telling
get,
her, like, why are you screaming?
yeah, what are you doing? And I get to her and I'm like, touching her, just putting my hands on her arms. And I was like, what are you doing? What's going on?
What happens then?
She keeps yelling and she kind of grabs my wrists and throws herself on the ground and pulls me down with her.
Not only are his illustrators lower, they're not landing when they should. When someone's telling you something, you've asked them a question, and they're giving you the answer, and they say, I'm telling you, I didn't do it. That's good. They said, I didn't do it. Their illustrators land on the specific word or phrase they're emphasizing. However, if they do stuff like this and say, no, it happened like this, they kept moving. When the illustrators don't hit on the words, something's up there. Something's not right. To me, this looks deceptive. Now let's see what she said.
While the defendant was grabbing you and pushing you, what did you do?
I was surprised. It felt almost like he was kidding at first. And I was like, what are you doing? But he had grabbed me really hard and was moving me. So we kind of wrestled a little bit, and I threw myself onto the ground because there's a lot of trees and shrubs there so that I could hold on.
When the emotional part comes up, when she's scared, she says it that way. She talks a little louder and she puts some inflection in her voice.
What are you doing? But
That's what happens when you're relaying something that's exciting, scary, or has an emotional thing to it.
As you threw yourself to the ground, how did the defendant respond?
well, he got on top of me and he was kind of trying to pull me, and we're wrestling, and he ended up straddling me. So he had his legs on either side, kind of across my waist.
She gets pretty uncomfortable there. We even hear her clear her throat a little bit. This happened a while back, but still the emotion is there, and we see it on her. I don't see any cues of deception here at all. Now let's see what he said.
When you're on the ground, what starts to happen?
She's holding on to me, and I'm trying to figure out what's going on. But I'm also at this point trying to let go of, like, trying to get free, because she's like actively holding on to me. Like she has her leg like wrapped around one of my legs, and like is actively holding on to me and is yelling. And so I'm trying to, get free, and I get my one arm free, and I try to use it to get my other arm free, and she grabs me by the testicles. And
Let me stop you there.
There's a whole lot going on with his illustrating. They're not landing where they should, and they're going on and on when he's not.
Dr. Gardcon is facing trial for allegedly trying to push his wife off a cliff. The wife claims that he was the one attempting to push her, while Dr. Gard insists that she was actually trying to push him. By comparing both of their testimonies, we observe that the wife's narration is smooth and consistent, with emotions appearing naturally. Fear, shock, and urgency are clearly visible.
Not talking. There's no emotion or excitement in his voice like there was in her voice. He's talking really quickly to make it sound like there's a lot going on. That's something to watch out for when someone's relaying something to you. Does the emotion come when they're speeding things up and things are supposed to be getting hectic? Do they look and sound emotional? He doesn't.
Did you ever, in the course of this whole thing you described so far, ever try to pull her towards, push her off, or drag her towards the cliff's edge?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Fading facts. No, not at all.
No, not at all.
Gets quieter toward the end there because he knows that's not true. So that's a big, huge cue of deception. All right, let's see what she says.
Once the defendant was on top of you, what did he do next?
So he was first trying to pull me, try to get me closer to the cliff. And again, I could kind of hold on to the roots and stuff that were around us. And then...
I know you hear a lot about eye movement. Personally, since there are no studies that back any of the things up about eye movement, I got a view on that. And a lot of people go against me on it. But since there are no studies about eye movement, I can't tell you if they're being emotional when they're looking down or they're lying, they're looking up and to the left and all that stuff. I don't believe that stuff. However, when someone's remembering something, they'll find a place. It's almost like a home for them to look at. Now, I'm not going the route of, okay, that's his home. Every time he thinks of something, he looks over that way. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is we've seen so far when she's recalling information, when she's actually looking at that again in her mind, she's replaying it, she looks down. Not necessarily to the right or to the left, but she does look down, and she's doing that here as well. And this doesn't look deceptive.
He had a backpack that he was hiking with, and he, like I said, he's on top of me, and he had a syringe in his hand, and he says, "Hold still," and I see the syringe, and I just kind of like bat it away from us both.
Okay. When you first saw that syringe in his hand, did you actually see where it came from?
I didn't see where it came from, no.
No cues of deception here. Now let's listen to what he says.
So you guys you're on the ground. She's kind of holding on to you. You guys are. Would you just kind of like a scuffle going on?
Yes.
Okay. And her legs wrapped around you.
Yes.
You mentioned we got right up to the point where you said she grabbed your testicles. Is that right?
Yes.
Let's talk about testicles for a minute. I got some of those. And when somebody does that to you, it hurts. Ladies, listen up. If you've got a problem like this, do what she did. I promise you, that's going to change the game instantly.
How hard did she grab it?
I mean, this was, like,
Pretty hard.
she, like, was holding on to me by my testicles, basically, like, that hard.
Okay. Did she grab it and let go, or did she grab it and hold on?
She grabbed it and held on.
But what's the problem here? With what he's saying, we don't see the emotion that comes with that. Because I promise you, there's a lot of emotion that comes with that. Not to mention pain. Now let's see what she says about that.
All right. You mentioned the defendant was saying some things. Can you tell us what you remember he said as he was on top of you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm screaming, and he's telling me, "Shut up, nobody's going to hear you out here, nobody's coming to save you," and I'm saying, like, "You can't do this." Everyone knows we're on a hike. They'll know this wasn't an accident, and our kids will be orphans. You'll go to jail, and I'll be dead. Like, you have to stop. And again, he's saying, like, "You're done. We're done with you. We don't need you anymore. You're done. You're done."
She's being very matter of fact about this, not making a big deal about everything. She's said this. She's told the story a whole lot. That's one of the reasons it's like this. His isn't like this, though. He's told the story a lot, too, but his story isn't as solid as this one. I don't see any signs or cues of deception here.
What happens after she does that?
Then I try to free my testicles, and so I'm, like, thrashing with and I get both hands free, and I'm trying to get her to let go of my testicles.
I don't see any cues of deception there. I believe he was trying to get her to stop doing that. Trust me. Again, ladies, that's what you want to. That's what you want to do. If you got a problem,
I had said, like, your mom just sent me a really beautiful text for my birthday. Like, your family will be upset if I die. You can't face our kids after this, you know? And he did seem at that point to, like, calm down a little bit. Like, it seemed like he took a deep breath and calmed down. And so I had this moment where I was like, okay, this is the break. Like, I can get out. And then he just starts hitting me with a rock.
this is a brilliant move on her part. She's trying to get to him emotionally, and it works. It calms him down because he starts thinking about other things than the moment he's in right then. I'm not saying this guy's a psychopath yet, but when you can bring in some emotion for that person to think about, whether they're a psychopath or not, in a situation like that, that gets them up in their head. That gets them thinking. That makes them ground themselves and come back to what's happening and what's going to happen after that. And that's what she's done. Brilliant. That and the testicle thing.
She's holding on to your testicles. You're kind of focused on that, obviously, and then at some point while you're focused on that, you
and it happened all really fast.
Yeah,
But
that's I'm glad you raised that up. Was this like happening slowly, where you had
it
time
all
to
happened within probably less than a minute, maybe
quickly?
slightly more than a minute. But I mean,
See, I got a problem with this. Let's go back to the testicles. Because if somebody's got your testicles, if it was a minute, that answer should have been, it was about 4 years, maybe 5 years. Months, I know it was months, I know that much. That's where his head would have been. He would have said it was a lot longer time-wise than less than a minute, I promise you.
we were on the ground and she was grabbing my testicles. It was like,
It happened quickly.
Laughing. Nothing's funny about that. Granted, we've been talking about testicles. That's funny. But when you're the one in trouble and you're talking about that, it's not funny. Nothing's funny. He's trying to rush through this. He's trying to get it done quickly because he knows it's not true. He looks uncomfortable. He's talking like he's uncomfortable. There are a lot of cues of deception here. Now let's see what she says.
When the defendant was hitting you with the rock, did you say anything?
I just started screaming because in my mind, he was trying to knock me unconscious to get to be able to drag me over the edge. I just was screaming then as much as I could.
Did the defendant respond to what you were screaming?
No.
This is what someone looks like when they're trying to hold back emotions. That's what she's doing. Notice how her mouth and her lips get a little bit tighter. When she gets quieter and quieter, that's not from fading facts. That's because she's reliving the situation and it's shutting her down. This is what it looks like when someone has experienced something traumatic and they start telling you about it.
You get hit with the rock. Explain to the jury what happens next and why.
I was able to wrestle the rock out of her hand.
Does she still have your testicles?
Yes.
Still squeezing them?
Yes.
Okay, he's not going to be wrestling anything out of her hands because he won't have hands to work with. His hands are going to be focused on the other hands that are on his testicles. I'm telling you, that's the way it works.
What do you do?
I was able to, so we're like, she's hitting me and I'm like blocking, and then I start and I get
Is
her
there a
wrist.
scuffle over the rock?
Yes.
Is it near her face?
Yes. I mean, it's
And then what
right.
happens?
Again, his illustrators are out of whack. They're not happening when they should. They're not landing on the specific words and phrases. And they're doing this number. They're going out and just happening when there's nothing being said. That's because he's rushing this thing. He's trying to get through it. And he knows this isn't true. That's a whole lot of deception going on right there.
And I finally get the rock.
What'd you do?
I hit her with the rock.
How many times do you think you hit her?
I hit her 2 times.
And when you did, was she still holding on to your testicles?
Yes.
At least initially?
Yes.
I'm telling you, if she's got his testicles, his hands are going to be up here doing all that number. I promise you they're not. They're not. It's not going to happen.
And I finally get the rock.
What'd you do?
I hit her with the rock.
How many times do you think you hit her?
I hit her 2 times.
And when you did, was she still holding on to your testicles?
Yes.
At least initially?
Yes.
Now, notice how he keeps looking at the jury when he's giving his answers. That's normal. That's what they've told him to do. When you answer, don't answer to me. Talk to the jury because that's who he's trying to get to believe him.
Did anybody other than the defendant respond to what you were screaming?
Yes. So I'm screaming, and I do think I was saying something like, please help. He's trying to kill me. I'm hoping somebody can kind of hear that. And I, at some point, hear a woman's voice say, we're here, we're calling 911. We're here, we're calling 911.
Now, in this situation, her illustrators are off. Why is that? That's because she's reliving the situation that she was in earlier where this guy was trying to kill her. And how do we know that? Because as she's closed her eyes, she's actually seeing those things happen again, trying to remember what she said. And your brain isn't connected to you emphasizing specific words and phrases. It's reliving that situation you were in when you were trying to save your life. So there's no deception here.
Why did you hit her? Why did you react that way?
Just on instinct to defend myself.
Okay. How fast was this all happening? Pretty fast?
Really fast.
Okay.
What we're seeing there is fake emotion. He's trying to pretend like he's crying. However, we don't see all the things that should be there to let us know he's really feeling that emotion. Number one, the chin boss. That thing doesn't engage. When you really are feeling sad, when you're grieving, that little muscle right there pokes up and you see almost an upside down smiley face. And you get what's called the grief muscle right here, where these muscles push down and these muscles push up and it makes an upside down horseshoe. None of that. And watch how quickly the emotion goes away. And that's because it's not real emotion. That's fake.
In between when she hit you with the rock and in between the time she hit you with the rock and when you hit her with the rock, were you able to safely retreat and get away from her?
No.
Yeah, why not?
She was holding on to me.
Including your testicles?
Yes.
Atta girl.
Did you hit her in the face or the eye with the rock?
No.
Where you said 2 times, where did you hit her?
On the side of the head.
Okay. So we've seen these photos of the stellate laceration. You caused that by hitting her, right?
Yes.
Okay. Did you continue to hit her after those 2 hits?
No.
And why not?
Because she stopped fighting. She let go of my testicles, and I was
Okay.
able to stand up.
And then you stopped.
Yes.
You know, there was testimony about the 2 witnesses. Did you stop hitting her because the witnesses showed up?
No. I didn't know that they were there until after I stood up.
That's deceptive. How do we know? Because there's no emotion in there. Again, we see fading facts. It just gets quieter and quieter as it goes along. And when you give that information, you don't just throw it away. Now I've got something special for you. This is his son who is on the stand because he called his son after this happened. It was a FaceTime call, and that's what they're talking about.
What did the defendant tell you during that call, as close to word for word as you can remember?
That he would not be making it back to Maui and to take good care of the younger kids, and that Ari, my stepmom, had been cheating on him and that he tried to kill her.
Whoops.
And then he said he needed to go so the police wouldn't find him, right?